Hello, my name is Benjamin Richards, and this is my presentation for the SplitSmart application for CIS 285 for software engineering tools. This is my term project, the cover page of the manual, the name there. And here we have the table of contents. We'll be going over that. We have an introduction, which is, of course, this whole thing here. We have our term project overview, which will going into a description of the term project. We have the use case diagrams here, where that will be something that will be listed on the as the event. We have our flow of events, of course, and our functional and non-functional requirements that we'll be going over for the application. Moreover, we in the flow of events, we'll be going through everything here that's listed out in this table of contents. We have our state diagrams, which we have 5 of them, which we'll be going over. We have the activity diagram that will go over all of these requirements. We have our deployment diagram and how it's connecting, how our application is going to be deployed once it is active and used. We have our sequence diagram, which shows the interaction between classes. We have the complete model UI, and then we also will have the presentation here, which is, of course, this video. Going down here, this is my term project. In this report lies the use case diagrams with functional and non-functional requirements, class diagram, sequence diagram, state diagram, activity diagram, and the deployment diagram for the SplitSmart application. This application is set to run off dedicated servers via the web browser, or a client can be downloaded on the iOS or Android devices from the Google Play or, of course, the iOS App Store. Here we have the use case diagram where the user admin can, once logging in or signing up to log in, has access to all of these use cases. Should be about 19 of them. So we're going to go down through here. So these use case functional requirements are: 1, the user can log into their account with the correct credentials. The user can sign up for a new account with valid credentials. 3, the user can view their personal expenses. 4, the user can view their personal balance. 5, the user can add a personal payment method to their account. 6, the user can remove a personal payment method from their account. 7, a user can submit a personal expense. 8, a user can make a personal expense payment. 9, the user can create a group. 10, the user can add other contexts, that'll be explained later on here, to make a group. 11, the user can join a group from an invite from a contact. 12, the user can, of course, leave a group. 13, this is all 13 through 17, assuming group access, the user can submit a group expense. 14, that they can approve a group expense if they are an administrator. They can also submit a group expense payment if the group has a shared payment method, or we'll get onto it later. If they all have approved payment methods that they would like to use, they will everyone in the group has to do it, and then this user, if an administrator, gets the final say if it's good or not. And of course, that's approving that group expense payment. The user, upon group access, then can also assign expenses of the group to certain members or the group entirely. It is completely up to them. Of course, and then lastly, of course, the user can sign out of the application and then they can quit the application. Non-functional requirements and some clarity that needs to be provided for this is that if the user has no internet connection or the servers are under maintenance, as they do, the client will just set the login screen and the client will display why they cannot connect, as if it detects no internet connection from the device, it will say, hey, it's not connected, please check internet connection. But if servers are under maintenance, there'll be a little at the login page, so that there will be a little notification saying, hey, servers are under maintenance from like 3 to 5 o'clock. Moreover, upon launching the application, the client will be offered a login and sign up button right at the start. Of course, this application will be using cookies that the application will just throw out the user, so when they come back next time, they can be automatically logged in. And also, it's easier for navigation for the user, so that when they are going back and forth between pages, that they don't have to actually have to re-log in or have to use the onboard application. So it makes it a lot easier. And for security purposes, I also want to list that personal account information, such as the email address, password, payment method, addresses, the full legal name, and that pertinent information will not be held on the client's client, and it will be held on SplitSmart database servers where they are encrypted and stored safely. Moreover, notifications of new expenses, either in a group or by yourself, will occur in 10 seconds at maximum after it has been approved, so that you know that SplitSmart has approved it. Upon signing up, SplitSmart will send you an automatic email to verify your email address to then verify the account. And then, moreover, SplitSmart will take your phone number and your contact information. If you're using the iOS or Android app, it will scan those phone numbers, and if there's any phone numbers that match up with SplitSmart's database, they will automatically add or ask the user to add those users so that they can interact using the SplitSmart app. We have a flow of events here, so let's just get through it. The user will either open SplitSmart on the browser or Android or iOS device. They will see a login or to sign up button, and upon hitting the login button, it will display a new page asking for the user to input their email address and password so that they may access their account. If inputting an invalid email address or password, the system will display the error message that pertains to the issue at hand, so saying, hey, bad email or invalid password if the password doesn't match up. Hitting the sign up button will display a new page where the user will ask to input their email, password confirmation to make sure that they match, and a full legal name. So then the database can then check if that matches. If the password does not match the confirmation, of course, the user will be asked to make sure that the passwords are matching, or of course, then they can't proceed. Upon getting access to the software, it will display a multitude of options, and we'll get into that, of a personal expense submitting, personal payment, adding a payment method, removing a payment method, join a group, leave a group, create a group, add people to a group, select group access, and sign out buttons. If the user hits add a payment method, a new page will appear, and it will be asking for the credit card number, their security code, full legal name of the card owner, the card owner's address, the card owner's zip code, and the card owner's date of birth. This is, of course, so that we can verify that this is the correct credit card with other agencies. And upon adding that, it will only appear as the card's type, like if it's a Visa or a MasterCard, in the last 4 digits of that said card. Moreover, they can also remove a payment method at any time, and it will show and it'll list all the payment methods of what they have added to the account. And then on that list, there will be a remove button next to each option on that list. And then the system will ask again if you want to remove it upon hitting the remove button. And once you have done that, the system will remove that payment method, and the SplitSmart application will remove that information from the database. Moreover, if the user hits the View Expenses drop-down menu, you can see all of the expenses that have not been paid off, and this will show the net expenses displayed to the user as the actual total amount of expenses. So let's say if you have 3, it will show all 3 as a big number. Of course, a user can submit a personal expense payment to pay off an individual or all expenses at once. And they can also view submission of their account in the View Expenses option and approve of the personal expense payment. Moreover, if the user selects the personal expense button, they may be asked to the amount and the expense and the reason for the expense. And then they can view the history of those expenses on a new page. Moreover, if the user hits the View Balance button, the system will display the held balance on the user's account via the debit card's balance or credit card's limit difference. You can, of course, join a group if you get an invite from your phone number. You can also create a group and select any of your friends that you have. You can also leave any said group that you've joined. And on that note, once the leave button is pressed, you will no longer be a part of the group, and that information is then lost. If the user hits the group access button, of course, once they are inside of a group, they select the group that they want to interact with, they get a whole lot more slew of options. Where, of course, the administrator of course, upon group access, they can submit group expenses, and that will notify everyone in the group when an expense has been made. Of course, an administrator of that group, let's say that we're the administrator, they have to approve that expense, and then that expense can then be assigned to people or the group entirely, depending on how the expense is submitted. And of course, payment is necessary for these expenses. So everyone in the group will have to put forward their payment method, especially if they have different cards, unless they have a main method. And then the administrator will have to approve of those members' submissions. And once that approval is set, those cards are charged and that payment is successful and everyone is notified of that payment. Moreover, we have a sign out button. If they hit the sign out button, they will be taken back to the login sign up page, and that's where they'll be. And of course, if they quit the application at any time, the application will just straight up close. Moving on to our state diagrams, here we have the user login state diagram, where the user, of course, will log in, and this is what shows at when the application is first open. If not logged in and is already registered, they can submit their login information if the correct information is provided. And once the user has provided correct information and is verified with SplitSmart servers, they may log in. If they're not a registered member, they're going to have to go to the sign up process where they'll be able to log in. And of course, they can then log in after the sign up process, since that'll be spitting out valid login credentials. And then, of course, you're logged in. Moreover, we have the user sign up here, where the users, of course, that's where you go to sign up, where we collect the name, date of birth, email address, phone number, and password that are all collected. That's the server database. That server database then checks if that data is already contained in our database and if there's any pertinent information that is matching. If it detects a match, it will notify the user that that account already exists, and so therefore they'll be unable to make an account. If it does not exist and that data is verified as unique, the user ID and account are created, and those email addresses and password that the user then entered in is valid for a login, as that is the new account that is created. We have the simple sign out function here, where upon hitting the sign out button, you're taken back to the home screen and you're signed out of your application. We have the quit application, where if the X button or quit button is hit, the application will disconnect from SplitSmart servers, and the application will then cease to be running on the operating system. Or we have an expense creation, where the user, of course, submits the expense, gives the reason and amount, and then it is approved. That expense is then added to their personal list, and then that is the expense creation. We have the activity diagram, of course, of that expense, where they log in or sign up to log in. They can view the expense. They can then submit that expense, and they can pay that expense and approve that expense. And once that expense is paid, their balance is updated. And of course, this is from the user swim lane, the user group swim lane, and the system swim lane. Here we have our deployment diagram, where upon connected of a web app, iOS app, or Android app, that is connected to our web server, and our web server is connected to our database, where they can share information to the device, to the web server through the device. So that is how that works. And then we have our sequence diagram, where the user is then interacting with these classes here, the user manager class, user interface, and user, where they can interact here by managing expenses, updating expenses, managing the balance, and updating balance. And lastly, we have the complete model UI here of what the application would look like. Thank you so much for listening.